Finish! Yahoo! Oh no! Finish! Yahoo! Finish! Woohoo! Finish! Woohoo! Woohoo! Oh no! Finish! Woohoo! Finish! Yeah! Finish! Yoo-hoo! Finish! Yeah! Finish!
I'm the best.
Finish! Got item!
Yahoo!
Finish! Just die! Yeah!
Oh, I lost. Finish! I'm the best! I'm the best. Finish! I'm the best. Finish! I'm the best. I got it.
Just time! Finish!
I'm the best. Yahoo!
Stop! Finish!
I'm the best. Yahoo! 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 Mario's the winner! Yeah! Yahoo! Mario Party 3!
Good choice. Good choice.
Yeah! Yeah! Yahoo!
Finish! 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 Finish!
I'm the best.
Finish! You record!
I'm the best.
Nice! Finish!
Wow! I'm the best!
Finish! Got item!
Yes! I'm a goddess. I got it.
Finish!
I'm the best.
Just time!
Oh, I lost.
Finish! Got item! Yahoo! Finish! Got item!
Yeah. I'm the best. Yahoo!
Finish!
I'm the best! Finish! I'm the best! Yahoo! Yahoo! Finish! I'm the best! Dance time! Yeah! Oh, I lost. the best.